Hey everyone, how's it going? There you go. That's awesome. Like that. Like the energy. So my name is Carl Edwin Michel. I'm the founder and CEO of Northern Arena. So first thing, welcome home, because this is also our home. We partner with Artscape here, and we have our office, studio, and we obviously brought the XP gang and here to do the XP Game Summit. So we're pretty proud to partner with these guys and to do an amazing event. One thing that I would like to say, this is a shameless plug, but I'm also the executive producer and creator of the Canadian Game Awards. It's happening tonight and tomorrow. So tonight at 7:30 p.m., we'll have the Canadian Indie Game Awards, and you can see it on Twitch, twitch.tv/cgameawards. And tomorrow at 7:30 also, we'll have the actual Canadian Game Awards. So please, make sure that you tune in. It's going to be a lot of fun, especially you guys. There you go. That's awesome. All right, so would like to start this panel. Just to let you know, this panel is brought to you by, Investment Quebec. Investment Quebec, there you go. You know what that means, right? The panel's gonna be in French. No, I'm joking. Investment Quebec brought us here together to have a wonderful panel. We have great gentlemen here. I'm gonna introduce them quickly, but before, I just wanna give a quick overview of what is going to be this panel. So, the name of the panel is How to Improve the Gaming Experience with Strategic Partners. To create amazing games, studios need strategic partners to support them with non-core activities so they can focus on what they do best. EdgeGap, Game On, Pixel Audio, and Please Fix by Turbulent will discuss how strategic partners can provide added value for gaming companies. So this is what we're going to talk about today. Now, before we go further, obviously, I would like to introduce you to the amazing panelists, the amazing panel that we have today. I'm going to start actually with Sean. Sean. So Sean Gauthier Nelson, he's the co-founder and business development at Pixel Audio. Sean, I would like for you to take maybe 2-3 minutes just to introduce yourself and also introduce what you guys are doing in the company.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sean from Pixel Audio. We've started Pixel Audio 10 years ago. I've associated with 3 audio artists, which I'm not. I do biz dev and sound design. I do biz dev and management mostly. We are now a small core team of 7, and we are working with, of course, freelancers and usual suspects to help us. And we do, I like to say we do everything sound. We do voiceover recording, sound design, music, of course, dynamic and modular music, and implementation in sound engines and game engines also. We worked with small indie studios and major studios like Square Enix in Montreal. We've worked with EA. We work with Thunder Lotus that you might know, and other teams like Typhoon or middle indie teams.
Cool, thank you. Thank you, Sean. Now I would like to talk to Benjamin Denis, business development at EdgeGap. Benjamin?
Awesome, so thank you. So Benjamin, as Cal said, I'm not that awesome, but I'll do my best to be funny because it's a panel, so let's do jokes. Benjamin, biz dev at EdgeGap. What we do at EdgeGap is we offer game hosting, so like the not so cool part of games. You guys are a lot cooler. We can look at your products online. They look fantastic. But we offer server backend, which is not so sexy. But we do it in a really nice way. We are highly performant and highly automated. The goal is for game studios of any size to be able to focus on making the game better and more exciting to the players while ensuring that they have a performing backend that works by itself, right? That's what we try to do. So we try to remove the hard, numerical, unsexy part of having a multiplayer game so that game studios can focus on the nice things, the skins, the new characters, the gameplay, the balance. I didn't say it, but I come from the esports world. Carl can testify. So for me, everything which is related to balance, fairness, and obviously having low latency is extremely important.
There you go. I love that. Nick Schmidt, executive producer at Game On.
Thank you, sir. Hi, I'm Nick. I'm executive producer at Game On. Game On is a studio in Montreal that started 20 years ago. Actually, this year is our 20th anniversary. Started as an audio provider for games, mostly in Montreal to start with. But we've pivoted about 8-9 years ago, and we're now, we also have a mocap studio, which last time I checked is the largest mocap studio in the eastern seaboard of North America. So that's, nothing to spit at. And so we do mocap for games. We do animation, technical animation support, full in-engine cinematics, including post and pre and post production, so asset development, rigging, and all that jazz, VFX, lighting, and engine. And also a bit of audio support still for the full performance capture that we record. Also do a bit of VO. So our latest projects would be that you could play. So we did the cinematics, the full cinematics for Outriders that came out a year ago. And we also worked a lot on our friends at Warner Montreal on their upcoming game, Arkham Knights. So that's something to look at when it comes out, I think at the end of this year.
That's awesome.
So that's pretty much it. Thanks.
All right, thank you. And last but not least, Michael Rodriguez, Business Development Director at Please Fix by Turbulent.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Very happy to be here. Very happy to be on this panel. As Carl mentioned, I am with Turbulent, and we are working on a new product called Please Fix. But a little bit about Turbulent first. We're also celebrating our 20 years this year. It's coming up. It's right now in April that is happening. And we're bringing to the market Please Fix, which is, we're calling it the world's first player-driven bug reporting and resolution platform. So this takes on many aspects, but essentially what it's trying to do is provide a centralized channel for players that encounter issues while playing, so that they can report it and communicate directly with the developers. But it's not just one way, it's a two-way communication. We have 2 founding cases right now that we're bringing to market. So our first partner is with Cloud Imperium Games, the developer behind Star Citizen, where Please Fix is known as Issue Council and has been installed there for about 2 years at this point in time. That was our initial case with Please Fix. And we just launched R6 Fix 2.0. So it's the second version, the most recent version of the platform, and that's with Rainbow Six Siege. And we're working with Ubisoft Montreal on that as well.
Fantastic. That's awesome. Well, welcome, everybody. Thanks for being here on the panel today. And I have a few questions for you. And obviously, at the end, we'd love to go to the audience if you guys have any questions. But let's start with my first question, which is, and I'm going to ask that question to Sean right off the bat. What are the advantage of working?
Yeah, we have shipped more games that the partners were working on. That's because we're working on 5 to 10 projects at the time. But it's an evidence when it comes to game audio. But in terms of doing games, we have experience too. We've been with the level of implication we are with our clients. We have met issues and challenges with the team. So with a new team, for example, we might have met the same challenge with another team. So we can bring solutions first. We can bring them all together, and we've done that recently with Metric Empire to help to connect the one person from them with another studio that has already know that challenge. So yeah, so knowledge, the transmission of knowledge is really important for service provider. We might help smaller studios with and bring them with ideas that came from a lot bigger studios. So you don't know how much working with a good service provider can help you and know more about the global industry. Of course, there's the price benefits, having access to senior resources or a whole team for less price, being able to ramp up when you meet production deadlines and add skills to your teams, like, for example, I don't know, implementation or helping your composer to do dynamic or interactive music or stuff like that. So there's a lot of advantages to work with people like us.
This is great. Would like to pass the question to Benjamin, if you would like to talk a little bit about what's the advantage of working with a service provider, but a service provider like EdgeGap, for example.
Well, we use the EdgeGap example, but I believe it applies to a lot of different service provider. Michael, your service seems to be strategic partner. I'm so sorry about that. But Carl started the show, so I mean, it's his fault. So look at it.
Strategic partners.
Strategic partners.
There you go.
Like a service provider is like the S word in our industry, so you don't try to say it. Well, strategic partner is the same thing, whatever. Okay, so one of the advantage obviously is, especially when it comes to the technical side, is you can leverage a lot more resources using a service provider than you could do by yourself, right? So just for EdgeGap, as an example, multiplayer games will probably go with one provider, AWS, GCP, and so on. Well, you get access to the best of that one provider, which is probably pretty darn good right away. But when you work with a service provider like us that leverages not one, not two, but 14 different providers, you can get the best granularly. Oof, did I say that correctly? Granularly? Yeah, that's it. Thank you. All together. No. So you can get that best result, and you also get discount deals, volume, which is really hard to access when you're a smaller studio. Obviously, once you go in the bigger games and you're like a AAA and you're Ubisoft, you go directly to Amazon and so on, and you can deal your rates right away. But for a lot of studios out there, it's not possible. So working with a service provider that sort of encompasses all of that and puts it together is an ideal topic. And I don't know how much time it would take for someone to make a product like yours, which does more or less the same thing, right? But I believe that a one-man team, maybe a five-man team, don't tell us how many people worked on it, but it's like almost impossible to do, right? So unlocking those kinds of advantages, volume, technological, is something which, no games in the future are going to be able to sort of be like, oh no, I can do it all by myself. Maybe that was before it worked well, and they're still going to work well. Like for those that know Vampire Survivor, awesome game. It's on Steam, $3, solo developers, best game of the year for $3. I can confirm. So it can still happen, but the game doesn't look like Elden Ring, let's be honest.
That's good. Nick, strategic partners.
Thank you, sir.
There you go.
So this is maybe going to sound a bit redundant, but still. So for us, like obviously you look at a studio like us, the first thing that will come to mind is like you guys have a mocap studio. So if you're looking to do mocap, unless you have an Accent suit, which still is kind of limited, that's the facility is a great asset to be able to get some mocap done and do at least get some solid foundations for animation, which is for people that have used it is not nothing to look away from. But as Sean said a bit, I think the expertise is really something that stands out. Much like a studio like Sean, we work over a year on 15, 20 different projects. We see a lot of different situations that happen, new tools that get created, new problems that arise that we find solutions with our partners, but that knowledge remains in the business, right? So all that knowledge that you gain from all the previous projects and all the ways of dealing with like engines that are, sometimes a bit finicky or something. So you get that, and after that you're able to pass on that knowledge to new projects and new partners. Obviously, another aspect of that is the ability to scale up rapidly, right? Especially in animation. For us, like not every developer has the ability to have, let's say, 20 animators on the payroll for a full development cycle of a game that could last up to 3 years. So whenever that crunch of animation comes, we're able to step in and say, all right, so we've got X amount of animators that can help you get over that crunch, and that leaves more time and more resources to developers to just make sure that the polish is nice and that the QA is done correctly, and that all that cycle goes through, and like the panel, the description of the panel says, it's just more time for you to do the things that you really need to be focusing on.
That's good. Thanks, Nick. Michael, on your side, what do you think is a strategic partner, and how do you guys fit in there?
Well, those were fantastic answers. So there's not a whole lot of ground left for me to cover, but I'm going to do my best here. I'd say that there's really two words that can sum it up. There's going to be perspective and specialization. So if we talk about specialization, it's quite simple. This really just, to beat a dead horse, I'm sorry to do this, but it's essentially, it allows you to focus on what you're trying to do, which is namely, in a developer's case, make a great game. So by bringing in strategic partners like ourselves and other companies that are out there, you are able to focus and basically offload a portion of that problem to people that are specialists in that particular area. So you get the benefit of their experience. You're able to onboard that quickly into your project. And as was mentioned before, you accelerate on the development side. But the perspective part is what's interesting, is because sometimes strategic partners like ourselves know a problem set so very well that we can identify the hurdles before you're even aware that they exist. So this can also create a time savings, and time is money. It's a platitude, I'm sorry, but it essentially is what it is. The faster you're able to get to your goals, hit your milestones, the more successful you are, and there's more time for polish afterwards. So that's really where strategic partners can help you by identifying those pitfalls and by having the expertise required to specialize and let you focus on what you're trying to do.
I have a question for all of you. It's an open question. So, do you guys work with on multiple projects at the same time? And how do you cope with the technology that is changing so rapidly, especially in the video game industry?
To answer your question, yes, we do work on multiple projects at the same time. I'd say at this very moment in the studio, we're working with at least 7 or 8 projects.
Tell us more.
And we're ramping up on others. And the follow-up to your question was, how do we keep up?
Keep up with technology and, yeah.
I mean, obviously being able to work on different projects at the same time brings us different perspectives and different tools and different problems that, like we said earlier, we're able to solve by finding solution, by working on them conjunctly with the partners. But I'm going to speak for our studio, so we do have a team of developers and like R&D specialists that do work on some tools and kind of try to and stay always ahead of what's coming. So Unreal 5, for example, is something that's been announced for years, and we know it's coming. It's not that readily available still, but we still have teams of people just already working on it, making sure we're ahead of everything.
It's not a choice. You got to keep up because you're going to go out of business. You guys are coming to us because of that, because we are ahead of the technologies, ahead of the solutions. So we got to do that.
Yeah, no. On our side at EdgeGap, we are all about the tech. So being at the forefront of what's new, what's happening, we're always in it. But one of the good things, or one thing we can do, is the fact that we are platform and technology agnostic. So that makes it really easy for us to be able to say, like, oh yeah, we can, your Unity doesn't matter, Unreal doesn't matter. So that's how we can deal with that. And what's your follow-up question? I got lost.
The first question was, how many? Do you work with multiple projects or multiple partners at the same time?
Okay. Well, yes. The answer is yes. That's the model of EdgeGap. To be honest, we created fleets in all of the providers, and our goal is to maximize the amount of game studios that can have their servers in there. So the answer is yeah. We work with multiple studios, and the more they are, the happier we are. We can scale with the big S.
That's good, Michael.
Yeah, I think that most strategic partners are going to be looking to work with multiple clients simultaneously, just to be able to have the revenue coming in and that revenue is really what's going to enable you to keep up with technology. In our case, it's a little bit different because we don't necessarily connect directly to the engine. We're a web-based platform, and it's more of a client-facing platform as well. That being said, we have invested enormously in the tech stack that powers the entire platform, and we will continue to do so because it needs to be clean and it needs to be accessible for, in this instance, the players. Just like when you're building a game, it needs to be top-notch. So the other gentlemen here need to make sure that they're ahead of the curve so that they can provide the best service to their clients. Whereas with us, it's the same situation. So, and yes, the initial question was multiple partners. We do work with multiple. We have our 2 existing founding partners. We just launched, and we're onboarding a 3rd, and we're hoping to onboard several more.
This is great. I want to go a little bit more practical now and ask you guys, like, how do you guys work on the specific project? How do you, I guess, work with a client, and how those project comes to be? Like, how do you get those clients? And I guess we can start with Nick.
I mean, specifically, I could go into like one specific project, but I don't think it'd be that interesting.
You don't have to name names or...
No, but it's not even for that. It's mostly because while working over different projects, we kind of sometimes see the same patterns emerging. So, I mean, for us, of course, we can come in as like the firefighters on a 911 emergency. Oh, I need X amount of character seconds animated by that date, and I don't have the resources to do it. So of course we'll jump in and we'll try to help you as much as we can. But the element that really changes the partnership for us is when we're allowed to kind of jump in the project as early as possible, kind of onboarding our team on a developer's team just as they would let's say a new department. So let's say you don't have a cinematics team, use ours and onboard them as it would be yours. And that's really why I kind of pushed the name of the panel to be about strategic partnership, because it's not just service providing, it's strategic partnership. Because the earlier we get in on the project, you give us your pitch, you give us what you're looking for, and then we're going to adapt our team, we're going to adapt our tools, we're going to adapt our way of working, we're going to build a pipeline with you just to make sure that whatever comes out at the end is absolutely in line with what your game is looking for and what you're needing and what your expectations are. So that really is like I said, I could just say, all right, so a client came in and was looking for that, and then we help them that way. But I think, like as I said, it really patterns that are emerging, and that we see that. And what's fun, it's that it is changing. We can feel it, and I'm pretty sure Sean can attest to that. Is that we see that these kind of old habits of, we need an outsourcer, here's some money, and here's we need X amount of animation done, do it and just give it back to us. No, we can work with you ahead of time, we can do the integration, and we can make sure that everything works flawlessly.
I have a specific example of what you meant before. With Square Enix, for example, they came to us to help them restructure their entire audio pipeline, because after they launched the Go streak, Lara Croft Go, Hitman Go, and Deus Ex Go, and Hitman. They didn't have an audio team for 3 or 4 years in-house. So after that, and we're, when you start, it's always chaos. You never know where to start, where to begin. And we do that a lot of time. When people are coming to us, we're used to start projects and put everything together. So they came to us to help them do that and restructure that. And for me, one specific added value that we have, it's with small teams, and we don't have a lot of turnover for employees like big studios have. The knowledge stays in the business, so we can help them going and up their game.
Yeah, and if I may piggyback the idea is, for us too, the earlier we are, the more we can bring value. We can also be there and extinguish fire. One of the latest games that came out on the EdgeGap platform, it's Kung Fu Kickball. They had a crazy story where they were a month away from launch, and they only had one server around the world, which would have led to poor performances, if I may say so. It's an indie game, it's a 2v2 thing, and it's a Smash-like game. So it has to be crisp, it's a fighting game, so you gotta react fast. And the guy was super intense, he coded his own GDPO, or rollback netcode. So if you're gonna put all that work, like we were there and we were able to extinguish that fire. But if we could have met with that person beforehand, this is our territory, but there's a client that is big, and they're seeing that, and obviously it's with a game unannounced, cannot say much more than that. But what they're seeing is the latency solution that we're bringing them is affecting their gameplay decision, right? Because you may not know it, but in a lot of games there are in-game mechanics to hide latency. So the screen shake, it does make it feel good, but it also hides latency. Big sprites, big explosions, or just faking speed and so on. A lot of games for years and years have had to add those features inside of it because latency is just an omnipresent issue. Well, what we're seeing, I cannot say what we're seeing, but they're seeing that it's such a big improvement that on game earlier you can make sound choices or des choix allumés. Would someone like to translate that? Choix allumé.
Brilliant choices.
Sound choice is the right
Sound
one. Yeah,
choices.
exactly. So you can make sound choice. And it relates to what you said. It's easier for the studio to use strategic partner perspective to plan ahead and just deliver a better product or a better service.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback on that as well because I think that there's something that's really interesting to be said in that collaborative spirit where you're able to generate a benefit that was sometimes even unexpected, and that can change the whole way that you approach the project. And that's what's really interesting. In our case, Please Fix, Turbulent might be 20 years old, but Please Fix is about 2 months old. So it's a brand new idea, it's a brand new platform. So it requires a little bit of a shift because it does affect community management in the way that it's traditionally been done. But if we go into a concrete example, let's say with our founding partner, Star Citizen, on this issue, that's the whole idea came from Turbulent's collaboration with Cloud Imperium Games, where Star Citizen is a bit of a unique case, but just trying to manage the backers and the players that were playing this unfinished product and the issues that were coming through was such a mountainous proposition that we needed to create something to help them be able to achieve their goals. And that's where Please Fix ultimately came from. Obviously, I'm fast forwarding through the story here because we don't have a bunch of time, but the collaboration is where it came from. So we identified a problem in conjunction with them that was being dealt in a traditional way. And we said, hey, maybe there not a better way to do that? And we used our expertise to provide that solution. And that's where, to get back to the strategy, it can really change and open up a whole bunch of new avenues for you as a developer. And that's what we're hoping to do with Please Fix, and that's what I'm hearing from all of you is what we're trying to do.
No, this is great. Another question for you guys when it comes to, I guess, the future of service provider or strategic partner, how do you see that going forward? Is it where you guys are needed and always going to be needed in the industry going forward, or do you see maybe those studios bringing in-house their services? How do you see that going in the future?
It's definitely growing. It's definitely growing. I don't know if it's because of this in the next few years, of course, because of this scarcity of manpower. It's hard to find our services. So if you need senior resources, you're gonna have to meet and go with service providers, and I think making games is getting more and more complex, and for me, it's not possible to manage everything brilliantly in-house. It's just not sustainable. So working with external development partners or strategic partners is going to help you. Of course, I think we're going to continue and see the globalization process in the industry. We all know that keywords had a tremendous growth via acquisition, and or any first party, and also with bigger studios, they tend to try and acquire their partners. Also, like what happens with you a year ago, and we've been approached for that also. And I'm not gonna go. I'm not gonna enter a metaverse, but that train is also definitely coming, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, that's a question that I wanted to ask you after about the metaverse. Actually, that's a big discussion right now where we're going. But before that, future and maybe Michael, you can go on that one. Future of service providers?
Well, it's very difficult. I mean, I don't think anybody has a crystal ball or a magic 8 ball here that you can call it. But I think that, based on what we've seen before, there are ebbs and flow. The shortages of manpower, is this temporary? Is this not? Specialization. But what I do think that we can say with a fair amount of certitude is that it is very complex to make a video game. And it is only getting increasingly complex. So what that requires is specialization, is skill. And these things are becoming a little bit more difficult to acquire, which is why strategic partners can help you accelerate that growth. I keep hammering this point is because acceleration is key in the industry, and it's all about being able to get out of the gate fast to validate your hypothesis on a game or on a product. So I honestly believe that service providers and strategic partners are here to stay. And it really depends on how the market is going to evolve. Obviously, there are some players that are out there that have the funds, that have the resources to try to emulate this in-house. But then you're also talking about scalability over time. So even if you have the funds and you have the abilities to do this in-house, you still have to build the procedures from the ground up. You still have to train the team. You have to put the people in place. You have churn that happens there. Whereas a strategic partner, their sole job is to carry this part of the burden for you, and that's where a lot of the benefits come from. So, to summarize, it's really I don't see this need disappearing anytime soon.
It's just growing, basically. Nick, or Ben? Go ahead, Ben. Sorry.
I have the microphone, so too bad, Nick. So in addition to that, is not only that strategic partners are going to be there to stay. It's I believe we're going to see less and less acquisition by the big players. Because it's just getting not too global, but too big and too precise. So if we go back to EdgeGap or Please Fix This, no big players don't the investment and return on investment they need to do to have a similar solution that you or I have is just too big for them. And at the same time, it's also a question of like, okay, so this product is awesome, ours is awesome. Do I want to buy it to make it exclusive? No, I'm going to buy it and I'm going to sell it to other people. But then the issue is, if a big studio buys it, what happens at the other big studio? They're like, well, I can't use that product anymore because it's being used by my competition. They're going to know. And what I'm describing right now is something that happened. Ubisoft bought i3D.net, which is a hosting provider, and they lost some feathers once they got acquired because other clients were like, well, I don't want all my data to be looked through my competitors as access. Obviously, there's contracts and so on, but it's just a question of vision, perception. Exactly. So first, I don't see it happen. I don't see it happening more and more. Maybe in your area, it's a bit different because you're more like oriented towards the skill, the manpower, and so on. But when it comes to something which is scalable, we'll see less and less acquisition. Even that. One of the main investors of EdgeGap is Convoy, and they specialize in not investing in games, investing in tools for games, right? So we're going to see more and more of those because there's a huge market for it. Because as we were discussing right now, games are more and more going to be specialized into what they're good at, which is making the game, the idea, the concept, and everything else is going to be available on the market for a fair price. You'll be easily able to, have access to the portfolio of people you worked with. So you're like, okay, so I'm going to be in the hands of someone with experience and confidence that the result is going to be good. So why buy them when you can just like specialize in what you're good and let other people scale things in like all regions?
Ben, can you clarify just to make sure for the audience, when you're talking about big players, who are you talking about?
Mainly the triple A's or the Ember. Obviously, like it's not a studio per se, but they have a lot. So Ubisoft is in there. Riot, Blizzard. Riot created their Riot how they call it, the Riot Direct, which is the backbone infrastructure for League of Legends, which they implemented a couple of years ago, and that was used to develop Valorant, because Valorant is also going to be super sensitive to latency, so they had to build something super strong on that. Well, Riot had the means and the power to do it. Are we going to see big players do the same thing in the future? Seems unlikely to me with the information I have right now, because it was a huge investment. We were talking about hundreds of millions to reduce latency. But okay, fine, you reduce latency, but how much ROI is that going to give you, right? Did they make 101 million of profit because they reduced latency by 20 to 50%? They know, but most people don't. And it seems unlikely to me that the trade-off is so direct.
Nick?
Thank you. So the future of strategic partners is, it's going to sound a bit redundant again, but I also think that strategic partners are here to stay. They're not going to disappear at all. They're just going to evolve, and we're kind of seeing it now. And I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I think we're actually in the middle of the transformation from service provider to strategic partner, in the sense that you see more and more developers finding and seeing the benefit of like onboarding an outsourcer as early as possible, sharing what they want to do with the game, giving them like the full brief of the project to make sure that whatever is going to come out of that strategic partner is going to be totally in line. As I said earlier, we still do the 911 work, and we still do like the very smaller projects, but the partners that come back are the ones actually that have done have taken the step of kind of onboarding a team, working with them, sharing some tools, sharing some resources, building the pipelines together. And they're really the ones that see the benefit, kind of like having, yes, they're external, they may be in another city or country even, but it really feels like that team is on your team. We're seeing more and more on our side, we're seeing more and more of our artists or lead that are attending production meetings with our partners to understand like what the changes are, because some creative director in whichever studio may think that the new decision that they're taking may not impact mocap, animation, or cinematics, but it does. It does more often than not, and they don't have to think that far ahead. By onboarding us, we can tell them, you know what you just did now, it's going to change this parameter or that way of working, and we're going to implement that for them, and we're going to work with them towards making sure that everything's in line. Like hiring a service provider or a strategic partner is not a magic wand that you just go like, all right, here, do some work. It takes some preparation. It takes some pre-production. It takes some meetings, and the more people see that, the more developers see that, the more they, like I said, they see the benefit. And I think right now it's changing.
That's cool. I want to bring it to somewhere else. We talked about the future of service provider, strategic partner. We were talking about technology changing, evolving. Briefly, we mentioned the metaverse. How do you see this going, and how do you guys fit in that? Because those are a lot of buzzwords, but there's actually something happening behind this, right? Like we're talking about metaverse, the NFTs and crypto and all that stuff. Where do you guys see, I guess, your companies and what you do fitting into this new world? And I see Nick passing the mic. He's like, yeah, not me. Maybe you,
Sure.
Michael?
Yeah, it is a big question, but it's essentially how we want to plot our course forward. I'm trying to gather my thoughts as I'm rambling over here, but at the same time, it's a really interesting question: is how do we fit in with the current evolution? And I think this goes back to understanding what our part of the problem is really key, at least for us, right? You know, what we're trying to do is we're trying to spark that kind of innovation at Please Fix. We want to change the way that player-generated bugs are viewed, not only by players but also by developers themselves. These are traditionally a concept that's quite difficult to corral, to get any kind of value from, and we feel that there's a gold mine in value for both parties. There's also the ability to get clear reports, and there's the ability to let your players know that you actually want to make the better game for them and with them. So that collaboration is what we're trying to do. And the reason I'm talking about this is because we're looking at that future already. We're looking at a new way to change this existing paradigm and try to make it a little bit better. So that's how we're dealing with it specifically from our end. I don't know if I'm giving you guys much to piggyback off of here, but that's our future or forward-looking thinking.
Thank you. Benjamin, I know you wanted to jump right
Yeah,
away.
exactly. Metaverse is a really fancy word, but if I dumb it down, and it's not going to be so dumbed down, on my vision of seeing it, it's metaverse for me is a persistent, interactive, multiplayer world, right? And that's usually called an MMO, and we can serve them just as any other MMOs. Obviously, when it comes to metaverse, there's going to be more specific needs, either on the server side, the capacity of amounts of players that can be in there. That's not that's not like the most exciting thing for us, because the more players there are, the harder it is to reduce latency and increase experience. It's still doable, but we won't have like 40% reduction on latency, which is super cool. But at the end of the day, that's what we could do with metaverse. We can enable any kind of metaverse, unless you're talking like 10,000 concurrent users on one server. That's still like even for those that are highly focusing on that right now, it's still a extremely big challenge because it's a lot of processing power, and we didn't even talk about the GPU and cloud and so on. Another thing you discussed, NFT or crypto or play to earn, I believe, which is all in the same area. One of the issues with those things is the fact that they're on the blockchain and they need to be verified. Nobody really has the answer right now, but it's obvious that when every action, especially in a play-to-earn game, has to be verified on the blockchain, latency is injected everywhere. So there has to be workaround to that. Well, the smarter people than me are probably working on it right now, but I can't say much about it right now. But there is that issue, and it has to be solved because, like, do you imagine, like, every time you you pick up a rock, they're like, yeah, we got to verify that. That's not the kind of a player experience I want.
Sean?
Same thing with faces, same thing with voices, same thing with everything you're gonna see in the metaverse. So I think I don't want to enter the ethical part of the metaverse, but I think it's gonna be something that you're gonna have to feel secure into that, and to feel secure that you're talking to the great person. So for us in audio, I don't know, maybe adding a security level on the voices you have in the metaverse and stuff like that. The same thing with the NFTs and insurance and insurance companies and in the metaverse. How are we gonna insure our Lamborghini in the metaverse? It is something, but of course there's gonna have new tools, new ways, but we're gonna invent that as we go, and based on what we already know.
Yeah. I mean, for us, I think ultimately, like it was said, metaverse is persistent. It takes like the gaming experience a bit beyond what, let's say, games as a service has started a couple years ago. So I think this ultimately, if we take like the strategic partnership approach, this is just going to reinforce what I've been trying to say pretty much since the beginning, is that if it's something that is long-term, it's also going to require some conversations and preparation, some collaboration from the get-go. I don't think, like it was mentioned also, that if there are some security issues and all that it's something that you're just going to want to offload super quickly to like a service provider or something. And I think that's pretty much all I have to say on that.
That's good, Nick. We're almost done. I want to make sure that I take the questions from the audience. So obviously, if you do have questions, please raise your hand, and I'll be able to ask. Well, you'll be able to ask them to our panelists. Do we have questions? Yes. No. Yes. No. Yes. No. Yes. Awesome.
Okay, so I feel it and I hear it in you guys where there's this resistance to the metaverse. Maybe not resistance. Is it because people are really still, thank you very much. People are still trying to define and understand what the hell the metaverse is, and also what am I doing with an NFT as part of my gameplay experience? Or are we still saying, well, it's already here, and now we're trying to adapt to it? Or we're still kind of like on standby to see it still really be fully defined and iterated in a way that we approach it in a more strategic way that's beneficial, because it's still being defined. Like, where do you guys stand? Because I see the hesitancy, and for me, is it because, like, well, we're not prepared to give 100% to this because it's still at an infancy phase? That's what I want to know. Like, where are we at?
I mean, for us, it's mostly my hesitancy comes from the fact that it's not my part to tell developers what to do with that. So at some point, we're going to know that some developers are going to have ideas, are going to have ways of working with the metaverse, and we feel that ultimately they will come to us also to support them in developing, whether it be content or you know, specific things that is going to be in the metaverse. But for the moment, we're kind of most like taking a step back, see what's happening, and kind of see where developers are going to go. And at some point, there might be something that we're going to develop on our side that's going to kind of graft itself to whatever they're doing with the metaverse. But for the moment, it's more of an observation position that we have.
Yeah, I would echo that standpoint very much. It's about being, as a strategic partner, we're about dealing with the here and now while looking forward. So you need to be aware of these developments. But you also need to service the specific issues at hand right now. So I don't know that there's enough, whether there, in my particular area, there's no real use case yet at this point in time for us. That being said, we are a technology company at our core, so we have to be aware of what's going on and what the possibilities are. But there's the realm between strategy and the realm between execution. So that's kind of where we stand right now at Please Fix in particular.
Awesome. So I'll go ahead. It's not like we do have a specific stance at EdgeGap concerning the metaverse. Like I said, on our way of seeing it, it's an interactive, persistent multiplayer world. And if you look at the description, World of Warcraft is the ultimate metaverse that I've observed so far, right? So is it in its infancy? No, World of Warcraft has been there for a long time. But if you speak to Benjamin, the guy that's a fan of sci-fi, and we talk about metaverse, what am I seeing that's missing right now, or what's, you know, what I say? I'm living in the real world, the physical world, because I don't have a choice. And you're all here because you don't have a choice. There's no other way around it. Until the metaverse is the second by default world where we don't have a choice to be. And then, until then, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And it also doesn't make a lot of sense to me when it's decentralized, right? Because if we're talking metaverse, we could be dropping World of Warcraft, Roblox, Star Citizen, yeah, maybe Star Citizen. The other game that's like
Second Life.
Yeah, I know. So there's a ton of them, right? But they're all like in their little silo where it's like, unless you're another Star Citizen fan, I cannot connect with you on the metaverse. But I'm a WoW fan, and I can connect with other people in that metaverse. So until there is like one metaverse, which is easily accessible from all of those siloed metaverse, because there's always going to be a siloed metaverse, just like there's siloed industries in the physical world, right? Everybody's interested by gaming. If you be in fintech, you're in the wrong place. Or, you know, maybe not the wrong place, but it's not like it's siloed, just like, you know, World of Warcraft and all those metaverse are siloed right now. And until it's like, you know, I can easily navigate from one to the others, for me, it won't feel like it's a real metaverse. It's still going to be like a persistent, interactive, multiplayer world.
I agree with that. We don't have to be at the forefront of the metaverse. Our clients will bring ideas, and we're going to help them challenge those ideas and help them pour régler this solve these issues.
That's great. So if we don't have more questions, I think we're going to be able to close the panel today. But I just want to make sure that I don't miss any. Oh, there you go. Sorry. I'm just going to come to you.
Hi, gentlemen. Thank you so much for sharing all the great insights. Curious to know your thoughts about quantum computing and how that's going to disrupt some of these challenges that all of you have been speaking about. There isn't a lot of information out on it. as folks that are on the inside of it, it sounds like things like latency and verification on the metaverse are all things that can be addressed by accelerating computing power and computing processing speed. So curious to see if that's been in any of your minds in terms of consideration in the short term or in the long term.
That's a really deep question. Let's be honest about that, and it's really forward-looking. From my understanding, quantum computing will increase computing power by a lot, which is super nice, but there's still the aspect of distance, right? Because when you play multiplayer games, most of the issues you encounter when it comes to latency is either your internet service provider or how far away you're from the physical server that you're playing on. So those issues should not disappear with quantum computing, but at the same time, all that processing power, damn. So it's really hard to say, but like, there's still going to be, like, because you touched the point of latency, there's still going to be latent issues even if you have quantum computing, but it's going to be, and you know, it all comes down to business use case, right? Because quantum computing is probably going to be pretty expensive, let's be honest. And you know, aside from metaverse and blockchain, I do not personally see like a clear, obvious application for, like, let's say the gaming industry. Obviously, when you come to the science and you know, like research and all that kind of stuff, and AI, huge. But on the gaming side, not super excited, and like, because it's still far away, and it's far away before consumers get their hand on that kind of processing power. So like, it's exciting, just like the metaverse is, but like on the short term, not much.
Oh, yeah, okay, cool. Oh, Nick?
No.
No? Okay.
All I can say is that, yay, quantum computing, if it goes faster, I'm happy, but that's it. I've got nothing of substance to add to that.
That's awesome. Well, Sean, Benjamin, Nick, and Michael, thanks for taking the time to talk to us today. Super happy and to have the time to talk to you guys about strategic partnership, and service providing in the video game industry. So I'm super stoked about that. Again, thanks to the audience and to the people online for watching. Again, a little housekeeping on my side. Tonight at 7:30 p.m., there'll be the Canadian Indie Game Awards that is going to be on Twitch at twitch.tv/cgameawards. And tomorrow, it's going to be the actual Canadian Game Awards that is going to be broadcast online. So please join us online to watch it. There's a VIP party at 7:30 also here, so you'll be able to see it even if you're in that venue. We're going to project it on the wall. So again, thank you everyone for taking the time to be with us today, and enjoy the rest of the XP Game Summit. And thank you to Finance Québec for this panel. Investissement Québec. Oh my God, sorry, but Investissement Québec. Thank you.
Thanks for being there.